Hey there, welcome to the Flute 360 podcast. I'm Dr. Heidi K. Begay, and I'm a flutist, educator, coach, and podcaster. My God-given mission is to serve you. I am passionate about guiding you, the modern-day flutist, to discover your unique voice on and off the stage. The goal of this podcast is to help you thrive, both as an artist and as a musicpreneur. Go ahead and grab some espresso, your favorite notepad, and let's get to it. Today's episode 231 is titled, How an Online Flute Blog Brought Hannah Haefele Success, and You Can Too. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Heidi.
It's nice to officially meet because we've been social media friends for a while, but now we get to meet and talk.
Yeah, it's exciting.
That's wonderful. So how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. No complaints?
Yeah.
Is your life as busy as it seems from my perspective?
Lately, not really, just because of the holidays, but yeah.
The reason why I say that is because you are always pushing out content. You are so consistent on social media and with your blogs. I'm blown away by your output.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah. Just on the client side of things, I haven't had as much going on. Holidays, end of the year, beginning of the year, companies are still trying to figure out their budgets and stuff. So,
yeah. We see it too. My sister company is called JK Media Productions, and we do audio and video work for musicians and podcasters. And there's always the end of the year slump of like clients kind of falling off, the planet. It almost feels like, and you're like, what? But then it picks back up like January, February, and it starts going back into a flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I cannot wait to pick your brain. And you are more than welcome. I mean, this is your floor. I'm just here, being the passenger along the way. So definitely shining the limelight on you. You are more than welcome to open up with sharing with us your background and a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So, my background, I grew up playing all sorts of instruments, violin, piano, drums, saxophone. I didn't actually settle on the flute until my junior year of high school. So that was actually, that was 16. And so I actually I didn't get the whole traditional like all-state experience that a lot of people get, partly because I started late, also because the high school I went to was a private high school and they just didn't do all-state. It was just really small and that wasn't a priority. And then I kind of got into blogging around that time too, because I had done like a summer camp on web design and I was actually a Girl Scout as well. And for my Gold Award project, which is the highest level of achievement or highest award you can earn, it's kind of like the Eagle Scout Award for Boy Scouts. I designed a website and Facebook page for my high school's theater program. So that kind of got me into the whole like online situation.
That's amazing. So even back in high school, that seed was planted and look where you are now in the online space.
Yeah.
Wow. Isn't it crazy how life I don't think it's magic and I don't think it's serendipitous. There's a divine intervention, at least from my end of things, my perspective. But it's amazing to see how those little breadcrumbs are there, and then when you start piecing it together, flute, online presence, website design, then you've got this amazing, huge flute blog, and you are a content creator in the online world. It's mind-blowing to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like amazed that I didn't see myself going down that path until years later. So it's fun to look back because I thought I would be like a flute teacher because that's like just like the thing that everyone does, or either that or performing. And
do you think it worked out for the better though? the fact that you
Mhm.
are here?
Yeah, because I did teach for about a year or so, and it was fun. I'm glad I got that experience, but I just enjoy I guess, more like the creative freedom of writing, because I still teach in a sense, especially with blog posts. I share tips and tricks, but yeah, I much prefer writing.
Ooh, nice. So, because you enjoy writing, is that why you were focused and kind of excited about starting a blog? Did that make the most sense to you?
Well, I don't really remember why I started a blog, because I started like my first official blog my freshman year of college, I think just to see if I liked it. I didn't know about like search engine optimization. I never promoted it until years later, but yes, I don't know really why, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Ooh, you said something that I want to kind of pick your brain on further, and that is SEO and just the origins of your blog. You said, well, I don't know why I started it. It was kind
Yeah.
of more or less a hobby. Now,
Mhm.
can you speak to, and I know you can because I've been in your similar shoes. I started the podcast because it was a means to an end. I got to wrap up my doctorate, and then I ended up really loving it. And I continued it because I know you feel the same way. You get to serve your people through this
Yeah.
content. But the approach from hobbyist versus being a businesswoman is completely different. As a hobbyist, correct? You said you didn't even know anything about SEO. And
Yeah.
that's huge in order from the business perspective for people to find the blog. So can you talk about a hobbyist standpoint versus a standpoint of being a businesswoman and using the blog to highlight your services?
Yeah. So I'll actually kind of go chronologically since I did start it more as a hobby. I was just kind of writing about whatever I wanted, anything. And it was not music focused for the longest time. I would write about college. I wrote about learning foreign languages because I've studied Spanish off and on for many years. And then somehow, I think maybe I want to say I was scrolling Pinterest, but somehow I came across this woman, Melissa Griffin, who I haven't followed in years, but I did follow her for a while. And her blog was what kind of introduced me to SEO and to actually promoting the blog, getting it out there to get traffic and to use that to make money either by selling services or by using affiliate links and linking to something on Amazon and getting a commission. So that was back in, I want to say like 2015, 2016 when I first learned about it. And so after that, I, you know, really focused on SEO and on choosing keywords for different posts and also formatting too. Because my initial blog posts, they were just big walls of text. I didn't have like any headings. The paragraphs were really long. I've privated all of them or deleted them. But yeah, so like another big thing with SEO is making the post easy to read. Because if it's not easy to read, people will click out and Google will take that as a hint that the blog post isn't very good.
Yeah, Google does not like blocks of text.
No.
You definitely need to break up, and you're the SEO expert. I'm still learning about this more and more and more. But the different heading types
Yeah.
versus paragraph and the spaces, so AKA white space.
Yeah.
You have to educate yourself within that world because it makes a huge difference on the back end of Google air quote liking your site and bringing traffic to it.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it and it can be overwhelming. I mean, for me, it's very natural at this point because I've done it for years and I've done it for multiple clients over the past few years. But I think that might be one thing that kind of turns a lot of people away from blogging is that it's not just you share what you want. There is a strategy behind it if you want to actually drive results.
Yeah. And you can see me totally nodding my head up and down like a crazy woman, only because that's how I approach my podcast in the early stages. Ooh, this interests me. Let me do this. But it doesn't work that way. If you actually want traffic and if you want listenership, or in your case, people reading the blog, you have to get inside their head. What are they needing? What are their pain points? What are their goals? It has nothing to do with you, the content creator.
Yeah. Like I remember reading this blog post, or maybe it was in video form, but there was a girl who is a blogger and she makes like millions of dollars a year from her blog. It's in like the decor space, but she talked about how, don't title a blog post my skincare routine, title it, the best skincare products, because that's what people are actually searching for. So in like a Flute case, sure, you could talk about your own practice routine, but you don't want to title it that, because unless you're like James Galway, no one cares.
Exactly. And they really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they may care about, practice tips, like how to use a metronome or something like that.
And rightfully so. We all do this to some degree because it's our world. How can you help me? I'm having a rough time with piccolo intonation, and my band director keeps screaming at me that I'm flat up in the third octave. Like, I need help.
Yeah.
Forget about Heidi's routine. Like, I need help. Help me. And so we have to kind of shift that and come from this place of servitude and use their language in order for them to feel really resonated with the content.
Definitely. And that's hard to do. It's hard to take yourself out of it. I mean, I definitely like to include my own experiences. And, one of the recent changes with SEO, going back to that, is that Google, a lot of people are starting to use these AI writing tools. And so it gets very impersonal because AI doesn't have experience. Oh. So a good way to stand out is to say, like, I like doing this, or I've tried this and it hasn't worked for me, or something like that.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, let's address, it's not an elephant in the room, but it's kind of probably a hot topic with AI lately. Can we talk about that? Like you just hinted at one of the cons, because as a content creator like yourself who dishes out so much content every week, and then you have to, not that you have to, we get to then market and say new blog, new podcast. It can be so overwhelming. And not that I have, but it's kind of tempting. Like, ooh, there's that AI over there. Maybe they could save me, they could save me some time. Can you talk about then the disadvantages of not going that route?
Of like not using AI?
Yes.
I mean, definitely the time aspect, because writing can take a lot of time. I guess other disadvantages.
Well, like you said, it's not as personable.
Yeah, it's not as personable. From what I've heard, it's essentially, it'll just take what's already online and regurgitate it.
Got it. Okay.
So
it'll take bits and pieces, put in a pot, and then push out the stew.
Yeah. And I've watched some videos of writers testing out these AI tools. I've never used, the closest I've used is Grammarly, but that's a proofreader, not a writer. But it's not even good writing that the AI processes. I don't know if you've seen like AI art. A lot of it's kind of weird looking.
Yeah. They can never get the hands right.
Yeah. The writing's kind of the same way. It's just a lot of repetitiveness, a lot of weird sentences, weird word choices that don't make sense.
So if you were to use that tool, it sounds like, disclaimer, get a subscription to Grammarly. Make sure you read it to tweak these things before you put it out. Yeah.
And maybe even try and add some of your own experiences. So I think that it is good to save a little bit of time, maybe help break like your writer's block if that's something that you struggle with. That's what I've heard some people will do, because there are AI tools, I can't think of their names, but they'll also help you like outline a blog post. So you could still be the one to write it, but if you're unsure of how to structure it and what subjects to include, then it can save a bit of time on that end.
That's amazing. Actually, that's a really good tip. Writer's
Yeah.
block is a thing. Because again, like if you're a flutist out there listening and thinking, oh, I want to start a YouTube channel or a podcast or a blog, content creation, like, I don't know about you, we can talk about this later because you're in my world and you get me.
Yeah.
My brain never stops about what I could write about from the conversations I have with 360ers. So creating content on a weekly basis, like you have to have ideas. And if you do have a writer's block, gags. So
Yeah.
I love what you just offered there. That's really smart.
Yeah. I've never used it. My brain is constantly going. So I feel like I always have ideas and I always like write them down so I don't forget them. But if I ever am feeling blocked, I feel like it could be a good use for it. I've never tried it, but I've heard
Yeah.
that it's worked for other people.
Smart, Hannah. And what you're alluding to too, and you're hinting at is you're doing research. You're aware of your niche. You're aware of the tools. You're aware of like the pros and cons of these things. And that's, again, I want to highlight this for everybody, myself included. That's from the standpoint of seeing it as a blog giving you an ROI, understanding the industry. A hobbyist doesn't do research.
Yeah, they write, and that's great. And sometimes it is good in the beginning to have a hobby blog to make sure that you like it, especially before you go invest in hosting if you don't already have a website. But yeah, if you want to treat it like a business, you do need to put more work into it.
Ooh, love it. Okay, let's go back 10 steps because there are two gems that you said that really drew my attention to these nuggets. One was the pivot, going and starting your blog, starting off as a hobbyist, and then saying, okay, now I'm going to switch it into this. Did you have that pivot because you were wanting different results, or did it naturally happen? A mixture of both? Like, what made you decide this is no longer a hobby? I am not just doing Hannah's blog just for the fun of it. I actually want to see an ROI.
It was, I guess, a mix of both. It was seeing people on, Pinterest, and I guess it was only Pinterest at the time that I was really seeing other bloggers, but seeing what it could do for them. And also just kind of, not getting many views or any views. I can't remember what my traffic looked like back then, but also, I graduated from college in 2017. So in 2016, I was a junior, going into my senior year. And I knew that I wanted to, turn music into a career in some way. And having a website or a blog specifically focused on that would help.
Mm. So did you come to all of that realization on your own, or did you have some outside of Pinterest and these other online resources? Did you have some mentor to help you with that pivot and start making that paradigm shift, or was this completely on your own terms?
It was just on my own.
Okay.
And everything.
Okay. Yeah. The reason I ask is because, like, for me, I am a slow learner, much slower than you. And we're about 10 years apart. So that says something.
Yeah.
But for me to have that pivot from being 360 is a dissertation or a continued dissertation to being a hobby, to being a resume builder, to being then a marketing arm highlighting how I can serve people was through a lot of massive temper tantrums. I could not figure out, Hannah. I was like, I want something different, but I don't know what it is. I want different results. And I didn't know why I wasn't getting that ROI. And my big aha moment was one morning when I was doing like devotionals or something in the morning, and it was about wheat. And I was like, oh, if you plant corn, you're going to get corn results. If you plant wheat, you're going to get wheat. But if you plant corn, you're not going to get wheat. And I know that sounds so simple, but there's a lot of value to that simplicity. Don't you think so?
Yeah. And it's like way different it's one thing to think about that and to know it's true, but it's another to like be reminded of it.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the biggest thing that I hear 360ers say, and I empathize, is I want to create opportunities for myself. and I see them having good efforts. They say, okay, I'm going to go on social media. Yes, but the approach has to be from the CEO business standpoint of how to move the needle forward for that ROI. Because if you use social media in this example, just as, hey, I popped in and I took a picture of my cat with my music and my flute, well, that's good. That's relatable. But you actually have to understand content creation, SEO, hashtags, traffic, engagement, all of that to see the ROI.
Yeah, exactly. There's a
Yeah.
lot. Social media should be fun, but you can't just get away with posting whenever. And I've been taking a break from Instagram, kind of planned, kind of not, just because it was annoying me because I don't like reels. I know they're the big thing. I don't like watching them. I don't like creating them. I've kind of been, mostly focusing on my blog. But if I do get back into Instagram, I will probably stick to writing since that is my strong suit, and then posting photos just to have a presence there. Cause it is good to have a presence on a platform with a lot of musicians.
Yeah. And that's okay. And good for you to observe and just say, hey, I need to take a break from this.
Yeah.
Because you're right, IG really started pivoting towards the reels because they're trying to, I don't know, I think, keep up with TikTok.
Yeah. That too. Yeah. I've used TikTok like twice. And again, I don't really like watching the short videos. I don't know why. It's just not my preferred method of content consumption or creation. So,
yeah.
So I feel like almost out of the loop in a way, but at the same time, there are other platforms that we can use to grow, like SEO or even Facebook.
Okay.
Facebook's kind of an older platform now, I guess, and I don't get a lot of blog traffic from it. Pinterest is my second largest traffic source after search engine optimization. So
that's interesting. Founded in Dallas, Texas in 1996, the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company is renowned for its international service for flutists of all levels. The Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company is your premier resource for everything flute. Their selection of flutes, piccolos, low flutes, and head joints from dozens of makers is truly remarkable. Also, their offerings of sheet music, instrumental accessories, teaching, and health resources are unmatched. Their in-house staff offers an unparalleled level of expert knowledge and personal service with an in-house repair staff certified in all major brands. Follow the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company through Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter to be updated with the latest news. Check out their website at fluteforyou.com. The Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company is truly your one-stop flute shop. And I wonder if there's something you and I will have to chat off camera about, like the differences between podcasting and blogging. Maybe that's going to be part 2. Maybe there's going to be another conversation when you come onto 360 and we can talk about that alone. But for me, I stopped with Pinterest because I was getting no traffic at all. And it was just like, ugh. But the funny thing is Facebook is a huge traffic generator for the podcast as well as LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's really interesting to me, but it doesn't alarm me anymore. And it doesn't surprise me anymore because my average 360 listener is like 45 years plus.
Oh, wow.
So my demographic is much older than what I thought. Because when I started my podcast, I was like, oh, I'm talking to the 20-year-old who's in college and grad school. Nope. I mean, there are 20-year-olds on the back end listening and 30-year-olds. But for the most part, it's like 40, 45-year-olds plus all the way 65, 70 is my demographic.
Wow. Yeah. So Facebook seems like a good platform for that.
Yeah. And then LinkedIn. I mean, it's just the older generation. But anyways, I had a thought. Going back to your SEO tips, is there anything else that you would want to offer the listener if they were, let's say Jane or Joe is really excited about starting up a blog. They've had it on their mind for a while. They're feeling really inspired by your blog. And another flutist who blogs a lot is Dr. Rachel Geyer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've read her blog.
Yeah. So if they're inspired by you and Rachel and others, and they're like, oh, I want to start. Okay, now I know I have to have this business cap on. Got it. Learn about SEO, learn about, keywords, things like that. You mentioned SEO and like breaking up the text for the white space and the headings. Is there another big nugget that you would like to share with them? Something where you wished you would have known way back yonder when you first started off?
That's a good question. The first thing that comes to mind is to have a blogging schedule, and you don't have to blog every day. I don't think I've ever blogged every single day, at least not for more than a week at a time. But once a week or even once every other week, if someone's, in school or has a lot of other stuff going on. But that consistency can really help build your momentum. You'll slowly build up, if you post every week in a year, that's 52 blog posts, and that's 52 more opportunities for you to rank in Google and get website traffic. Plus, what I've heard is that at least in the beginning, if you already have an established blog, you can take time off. But when you are trying to grow your blog, Google wants to see that consistency. It's like on Instagram, the algorithm wants to see that you're posting regularly. It doesn't have to be all the time. But find some schedule that works for you and stick to it.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah. Same thing with my world too, is when I'm not consistent, my listeners will remind me, you missed a Tuesday episode.
Yeah.
So I say that lovingly, and I love it. Keep calling me out, guys. I say that because your readers will anticipate when that blog comes out. And if you get them in a schedule and you are consistent, then they're going to keep religiously coming back to you for more because you put them on that schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I use WordPress, and I know on WordPress, it's kind of like a social platform in that you don't have to have a blog, but you can sign up for a profile and then follow other blogs. So that, will notify people. And of course, there's, just like the general email list. I'm not good about sending emails to my email list, but you could, of course, to get people in that routine, send out a weekly newsletter or like every time you have a new post.
Ooh,
Hey
love
guys,
that.
check this out. Yeah.
Boom. Perfect. So no SEO, sit in the CEO chair. Too many letters.
Yeah.
And consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other blogging tip that you wished you would have known?
I think, read other blogs, read other music blogs, but also just read blogs on whatever interests you and think about what you like about the structure. Is there this blog that uses big walls of text? Or just read what you like, and that can kind of help get an idea of how to write for the web, because writing a blog is a lot different than writing like a term paper, where you're using all sorts of academic language, you're citing your sources with footnotes. Whereas on a blog, if you cite something, it's just a hyperlink to that resource, and it's more conversational. So I think reading examples can help a lot.
Girl, you're calling me out. Like the beginning stages of my social media endeavors to say, hey, new podcast out. I chuckle at that young Heidi version putting out that content because it was way too academic. And I read it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not engaging. This is not a conversation. There's no way anybody would connect with this. But I mean, I didn't know because my world was getting those 3 degrees. And that's what we worked so hard for in college, right? Was those scholarly academic papers. And that was the style. That's what we needed to do to get those degrees. But this is a completely different world.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't remember struggling with the transition. I think part of that was because my senior year, I also was an opinion writer for my university's paper. So that was also more conversational writing compared to classes. So that helped me make the transition. But yeah, it's hard. And I try to like write how I would talk, so that helps keep it conversational too.
Yeah. I remember when I recorded the first 8 episodes for the dissertation. I am a conversationalist. So even though if my writing was very academic at the time, I am proud of this. The first 8 episodes, I did still feel like Heidi talking to somebody through the microphone, but so much so that I remember my committee saying through one of the meetings where they approve or deny me moving on through the project, they're like, you are using informal speech in the podcast. Like, instead of saying, do you want to go? I would say, oh, do you want to go? And that kind of irked them. But I had to, yeah. And so I kind of had to lovingly say, this is a podcast. It has to be informal. It has to be engaging. And I knew that much. I didn't know yet about the writing, the show notes, or the social media. I didn't know that, but I did know that much about podcasting because at the time, my husband, he still is, but at the time he was a podcast audio editor for these like big podcasters and YouTubers out in the world. So as I was even in this like scholarly arena on the back end, he was feeding me podcast information. So I knew that world enough to know that it had to be a conversation from me to my listener through that microphone, even if I didn't see them per se.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know about anyone else or about you. I would not want to listen to a podcast that's all academic language it's hard enough to read an academic paper because I'm very visual, but having to process something so formal, like with just the audio, that would be so hard.
That's a good point. So they would just keep saying, Heidi, you can't say things, with this slang and formal speech. I'm like, no, it's a different medium.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know to their credit, we were all learning as we went because how many search committees approve of a podcast for a dissertation?
Right.
To be fair, I'm gonna throw them a bone. So we talked about how you started the blog, the things you learned along the way. Let's talk about how the blog has opened up opportunities for you, benefits, all of that.
The biggest thing is that it helped me get into freelance writing and writing blog posts for other companies and people, which I started that in like September of 2018 because I knew I wanted to go to grad school because I did not go straight away after undergrad. I had taken a year and a half off at that point. And I was deciding between 3 schools, all in different cities across 2 states. So I was like, well, I know I need to make money when I'm in grad school. I started in the spring, so I wasn't going to get, a teaching assistantship. But that meant, okay, online. I want to make money online so that no matter where I go, I can continue with this. And so I just scoured all the job boards that I could find. And I finally landed my first client in like the middle of October. And they weren't music. It took a while for me to get actually music specific blogging clients, but they had a lot of different websites, some of which were on music. Others were about like gardening or other random topics. But that helped me make money in grad school. And it really showed me that was what I wanted to take. That was what I wanted to do with my career, since it's so flexible. And, when the pandemic hit, everyone lost gigs. Everyone, maybe lost a few students that didn't want to study online. I was essentially fine because I was already working remotely. Another way that it's kind of opened the door I mean, it got me into social media, which is where I've met you and a lot of other flute people and music people. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
think those are the big ones.
That's amazing. And kudos for you, and for you putting yourself out there and saying, let me try building this online platform for myself. And it does open doors, and this is something that I constantly say through Flute 360. And I'm sure my listeners are always like, yeah, I'm sure, Heidi. Yeah, 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 yeah. But I want to show more proof from other paths, from other walks of life. You're a blogger and it's opening up doors for you, right? Later, I get to talk with Rachel, who's another flute blogger, and I'm sure, I mean, we're friends, and I can safely say it's opened up doors for her. Or somebody such as a YouTubing flutist like Joanna.
Yeah.
Now she gets to work with Flute Center of New York and other companies, and I bet she never anticipated that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And the thing is that, I mean, now I do pay for my blog, but when I started it, it was free. I just used Blogger or Blogspot. I didn't even have to create an account because it's owned by Google. So you just use your Google account.
Mm.
And so that makes it really easy. And then once I started taking it seriously, I moved it over to WordPress, since that is kind of like the big blogging platform. I know a lot of musicians use Wix or Squarespace for their websites, and those are great. And I think both of those allow you to start a blog. I really like WordPress for mine.
Nice. Yeah, and you're right too. Like I also use WordPress, and I do know that you can follow other content creators' blogs and posts through WordPress. You just hit follow and it's really sweet.
Yeah. And you can use WordPress for free. It's just like a different version.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Cool. So, is there anything else that you want to share with the 360ers about blogging? Anything under the sun? I know that's a very blanketed question, but I just want to make sure that we wrap this up with a nice bow where you feel complete and you're not like, oh, I forgot, dot, dot, dot.
I would say, I mean, while you do need to put in the work to figure out what keywords there are, which I guess an aside related to that, Facebook groups are a great resource to find not necessarily keywords, but just topics that people want to know about.
Ooh.
Look at the questions. Like I'll look in Flute Forum, that's the biggest Facebook group for flute players. And then, so then I'll make a list of those, do some keyword research on them, figure out what's going to rank well. But don't take it don't take it seriously. You should take it seriously, but don't overthink it. Still have fun. It can still be enjoyable. And yeah.
Ooh, I love that. I'm going to steal that for like my podcasting tip for the year because it's so true. Like there are a lot of people who are considering, should I start a blog, a YouTube channel, a podcast channel? And the people who come to me and say, I don't know, like I would like to start a podcast, but I'm going to have to do all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, you learn as you go. But if I don't have fun doing this as much as I do, then why do it?
Exactly.
I take it seriously. Like I really respect the work. I try to have things in order and I make sure the guests are happy and you're prepared. And so there's some legwork, but if I don't enjoy the process and if I take it way too seriously, I'm never going to come on video because I'm going to be a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to hit publish ever.
Right. Yeah. You definitely have to enjoy it. And I think that's a good tip to consider too, between a blog or a YouTube or a podcast is like, what format do you like? If you hate editing video, which I've done minimal edits, I don't really care. I don't want to spend that time. A YouTube channel, I have one, but it doesn't really make that much sense outside of maybe like the occasional live video or something. But since I enjoy writing, a blog makes more sense for me.
Boom. Yeah. And that's a beautiful way to wrap up this conversation is, we're talking about blogging, but thank you for thinking big picture. If there's somebody out there thinking about content creation and building those opportunities, we need to, because we live in a tech world. You have to be, and I don't like to say have to or should, but seriously, the world we live in, you need some sort of online presence. You can't do, this is not, I don't have business paper cards anymore, but the business paper cards are no more. I have a virtual business card.
Yeah.
And so that's just to say that's the tech world we live in. And if we don't have some sort of, even if it's a basic website or some blog to get people, aware of your offerings and what value you can bring to the community, then you're going to be unknown. It's almost a necessity now in the world that we live in. So bringing it, like what you just did with this bird's eye view, we're talking about blogging, but figure out your options. What makes sense for you? What are your strengths? What feels right for you and your schedule? What is in alignment with your likes or dislikes? You have to figure that out. And for you, like you said, probably 2 or 3 times within these 45 minutes, I like writing.
Yeah.
So a blog makes sense for you. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I really hate being on video, then don't start a YouTube channel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I really loved how you opened that up so we could see the big scope and be reminded of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that we have all the options, the audio, the video, the written word. So we get to all do what makes sense for each of us.
Boom. Oh my gosh. Yes. And not to play devil's advocate, but on the flip side, because you said that, even though, let's say, you don't think you're going to like TikTok, right? Let's just say you have a good feeling like, oh, I'm not going to like those reels. Okay, yes, then start your blog if you like writing. But once that gets going, maybe you disagree with this, Hannah, I don't know. This is so subjective. Give that reel or TikTok channel a try, just for a time being. Dip your big toe in and give it a try, because you might be surprised.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, especially once you get the rhythm down. Like, I wouldn't start a blog and a TikTok and a YouTube and an Instagram all at the same time. But once you kind of have a rhythm going and a process for one, then move on to the next and try it for, a month or 2. If it doesn't work, then that's totally fine. You can move on to the next thing. But if it does work, stick with it and see where it goes.
Ooh, I like that. Once you get into that rhythm, because that is very true. Because all of my friends kept saying, like, you need to start a TikTok channel. I'm like, I'm not starting a TikTok channel. There's no way. That's for like young millennials, generations who are younger than me. Like, nobody needs to see a mid 30-year-old going on to TikTok. I am not going to embarrass myself. And they're like, no, Heidi, like, you don't have to do like trendy things. There are educational TikTok videos out there. I'm like, all right, let me give it a try. I tried it and I'm sucked in. I absolutely love it. Because you get to do the stickers and everything.
I may have to try it again, but we'll see.
Yeah. That's just to say, give it a try, because you never know what could pan out. Same thing with a client of mine. He didn't know if he wanted to start a podcast. So Garrett and I said, he's a business partner of mine. He said, let's just start you off with Facebook Lives. You don't have to edit. You don't have to have an actual schedule. Just go on, let people know you're showing up, maybe an hour before launch, and see if you like it. And he did it for about 3 weekends. And he goes, I am starting a podcast. I absolutely love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. See, so you never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's so many different ways we can create content nowadays that, we can experiment and find what we do or don't like.
Love it. So as we wrap up our conversation, because I want to respect your time, I usually do a pick for the day. So you can share with the listeners anything under the sun, your favorite TV show, movie, game, whatever you want. I would love to hear your pick.
Oh my favorite. Okay, I'll go with my favorite vacation spot, which
Ooh.
which is Grand Cayman in the Cayman Islands. There it's like south of Cuba, I think like northwest of Jamaica. But I have a family friend who has a condo down there, and my family and I have gone like 5 or 6 times. It's been like 7 years since I've gone, but this condo is in a complex with its own private beach. It's like white sand, gorgeous blue ocean, and it's just like my happy place. So if you ever get to go there.
Yes, please. And girl, you just made me so jealous. Like, I'm in Forney, Texas, and now all I can see is this beautiful island in my mind's eye. Oh, that sounds amazing. I've never been, but it is now on my bucket list for sure.
Yeah, it's great. And it's so nice. Like we would go in the spring most of the time, which I'm from Kansas City. And in March, there'd still be, snow on the ground. It'd be in the 30s. But then you'd go to Grand Cayman and it'd be in like the 80s and nice and warm, which I hate winter. So going to the beach was always nice.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for that pick.
Yeah.
It's funny. We're in like episode 230-ish area. Not many people choose locations.
Yeah.
So that was a first.
All right. Well, I'm glad I could share that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all of your expertise and your time and your energy. We so appreciate your knowledge and the willingness of you sharing with us your world. And I learned a ton from you. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, you're invited on 360 anytime because I think we just came across part 2 topic of the differences. I don't even know if you can say similarities. Maybe you can. Similarities and differences between podcasting and blogging.
Yeah, that's a great topic.
I like it. Let's do it.
Yes, I'm down.
Awesome, girl. Well, thank you and have a really good day.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Flute 360 podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review through your favorite podcast app, such as Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, among others. Thank you. Let's talk about Flute.